Get ready for Changing Worldviews with Sharon Hughes, the 30-minute show packed with an hour's worth of information, bringing you familiar guests on important issues such as immigration, education, the Middle East, culture, religion, and the changing worldviews of Americans and the world. You've seen her on Fox News, you've read her on the World Wide Web. Now here's Sharon.
For such a time as this.
Freeing the minds of the brainwashed masses.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to this edition of Changing Worldviews. Today, former Governor Jesse Ventura is hiding out in Mexico from U.S. drones. He said that he has gone off-grid south of the border to prevent U.S. spy drones discovering his whereabouts so he can produce his online TV show off the grid. People are undergoing extreme body modifications to, are you ready for this? Look more like the devil. What? As CNN recently reported, there are now thousands of people that have embraced extreme body modification as a lifestyle, and the movement is growing rapidly. In fact, CNN says that there is one website alone that has 3 million photos of extreme body modifications. Horns, forked tongues, elf ears, and on it goes. What in the world is going on?
I don't know.
The Center for Immigration Studies reports 10 reasons why biometric exit may advance in 2014. Some of the reasons are Department of Homeland Security Secretary, who adamantly opposed the biometric exit, is gone. The Senate Judiciary Committee considered 2 biometric exit amendments, passing 1. At least 17 countries have implemented a biometric entry-exit system systematically, and those that are for it believe that there is a growing familiarity with the use of biometrics, which will allow it to be passed here in America. And that is what we are going to be talking about on today's show with author Terry Cook of Beast Tech. Stay tuned.
You're listening to Sharon Hughes, coming to you from the Wild Wild West, and we mean wild.
Thanks for staying with me, everyone. Today is part 2 of my interview with former police investigator and author Terry Cook on his latest book, Beast Tech. Are we living in the end times? Are we living in the times of the, quote, mark of the beast? Here, take a listen to this.
The year is 2017. You're rushed to a hospital unconscious with no ID or medical history, but thanks to a microchip under your skin, it's all there. Science fiction 20 years ago, but a biometric reality today.
2,000 years ago, John the Apostle received a revelation from God, predicting the arrival of the false prophet and the man of sin.
The United Kingdom's Information Commissioner claims that in 2017, consumers will be cashless shoppers. A microchip holding personal bank account and credit card information will be implanted into the body, connecting to a database that will know who they are, where they live, what they like, and what they don't like. Shoppers will have their hand scanned, not their credit card.
And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns.
The most powerful nation on earth is set to betray its citizens, with new mandatory revisions to citizenship and constitutional privacy.
A system touted as a national security necessity is being used to build a database where the biometric identity of millions of Americans will be gathered and stored.
We're meeting with the president in order to formulate legislation that would require every person in the United States of America who is employed to carry a biometric identification card with them.
And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. And that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name.
The president put in a lot of money in the stimulus package to advance medical records so that if you have the chip, you can carry the records with you. They can stick it in a computer. They can know all your situations.
They'll have a GPS chip in there so that they can measure everybody, every instant, no matter where they go.
Your ID card would have either your fingerprint, your thumbprint on there, or it would have a reading of the veins in the back of your hand.
From best-selling author Thomas Horn and retired police investigator Terry Cook.
Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast. For it is the number of a man, and his number is 666.
Comes the explosive new non-fiction book, Beast Tag.
Well, to talk about these things and more, here's part 2 of my interview when I spoke earlier with author Terry Cook. Here it is. We will never stop trying to encourage people to get engaged, to be a voice in your family, in your neighborhood, in your workplace, at your local school board meetings, because while we may not be able to stop the grand plan of the things we're talking about today, we certainly can inform folks that they will not be caught up into it. They will not be duped into falling for the kinds of things that we warn about on the show all the time. And Terry, I would like to focus in now on these trigger events that I've heard you and Tom Horn talk about as well. Would you tell us what potential trigger events are, which ones you think they are, and what are we talking about when we're talking about trigger events? Trigger events of what?
Excellent questions. And let me just say that there are many of them, but we've cited 3 major ones in the book, and we've written separate books on all of these trigger events. So again, we encourage you to go to my website and Tom Horn's website. But addressing your earlier statement, even a lot of pastors are confused about, well, the Bible says we won't know the day and the hour, and that's correct. But in context, here's what else it says. Chapter 24 of Matthew, and it's also the Synoptic Gospels, Luke 21 and Mark 13, slightly different but the same, where it says, "So likewise ye, when ye shall see all these things happen, know that it is near, even at the door." So we will be able to tell when it's near at the door. Sharon, it's near at the door. We have monsters at the door, Nephilims. We won't have time to get into that. Tom is an expert on that, but it's at the door. And only if you're blind can you not see the lion at the door. The next verse, 34, says, Jesus says, verily. Now that's an old word meaning truthfully. And so we have the God incarnate himself, Jesus Christ, who was God in the flesh, himself saying this, Matthew 24:34. He says, verily, truthfully, I say unto you, this generation, meaning the generation that sees these signs, that it's near at the door, this generation shall not pass or die till all these things be fulfilled. So he says, we'll be able to know when it's near at the door, and the generation that sees these things near will not die. A biblical generation is roughly 70 years. I'm 66 and a half. We're pushing it. Now, verse 36 of that same chapter says, but of that day and hour, meaning the exact day and hour, nobody knows except God in heaven. So, let's put it all in context. Will we know it's near at the door by reading all the signs in Matthew 24, Luke 21, Mark 13, Revelation, and Daniel? Yes, we know it's near at the door, but will we know the exact day and hour? No, we will not. God says only he knows the exact day and hour. We know it's here at the door, and the generation that is us will not die before the end comes.
So
the 3 trigger events.
Yeah, that's what I want to talk about, because first, will you tell us what you mean by a trigger event of what, for those that this is the first time they've heard any of this, and then tell us what you think the major ones are.
I'm in the business to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God. I'm not politically correct at all. If you study the basis and the origin of political correctness, it's communism, otherwise known as socialism. Same thing, different label, same concept. And that's a way to shut down any truth in our society, you see? So people are more and more afraid to tell the truth today. The truth shall set you free, and that is Jesus Christ. Read the book of John, okay? He is the creator of the universe. He created you. He created your mind so that you can think, but he also said in 2 Thessalonians 2 that most people would be deceived, so much so that few would be able to see through all the darkness in this age, which is that near generation of which we just spoke. We are that generation, no doubt whatsoever we're that generation. It is at the door. Most people go through their daily events as if everything's going to be fine. They're going to go through their retirement, and the world's not going to blow up with trigger events, which we're going to get to here very shortly.
And we better hurry because we're running out of time.
Okay. Now, I'm going to spend maybe 3 to 4 minutes describing the trigger events, which will lead to the whole world going through a paradigm shift upside down into the New World Order. And these events will cause the world to need a false Messiah, i.e. the Antichrist. Now, it's appearing more and more that he may come down in a UFO. Now, folks, if you think I'm a lunatic for making that statement, turn off the radio.
I'm pretty sure when you're talking about the Antichrist coming in a UFO, that's all, it's not a real alien, it's a real person. They're going to use things like holographs or whatever, like you said, an illusion.
It's going to be a delusional event, first triggered by the things we're about to mention, okay? Now, I'm a retired policeman, an ex-Army officer, and a Vietnam vet, okay? I know what a gun is, and I know what a trigger's for. Thank God I've never had to kill anybody. 6 years in a police car in Los Angeles, I never had to kill anybody. But I've pulled it, cocked it, and thought I was going to have to trigger a bullet. So that's what it means. A trigger event is something that launches something else. In a gun, you pull a trigger and the bullet comes out. And it goes in the direction, usually, in which it's pointed. So trigger events are something that jars. When you cast a bullet out of a gun, you pull the trigger, it makes a big, loud bang, usually, unless it's a .22. So that's what's about to happen. And we have many of them, but the 3 major trigger events listed in our book, and from that you can get our other books because we go into great detail. Get our other books, facts, police reports, this sort of stuff.
You know what, Terry, we've got to take a break here. Hold your thought. When we come back, we'll let you give those trigger events. Stay with us, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back.
It's time for The Legal Edge with Brad Dacus.
We at Pacific Justice Institute have developed a nationwide network of hundreds of volunteer attorneys making a significant impact by occasionally getting involved in defending churches, parental rights, and other important civil liberties. Perhaps you are an attorney wanting to make a difference. Contact us at pji.org. I'm Brad Dacus.
To find out more, log on at pacificjustice.org.
I'd like to encourage you to get a hold of this month's special offer. Not only do you get a great resource, but it also helps us pay for airtime. And this month, for a donation of $25 or more to Changing Worldviews, I would love to send you the 4-part series on CD, What Every American Needs to Know About the Quran, with modern-day historian and author William Federer. It's one of our most popular listened to shows online as we talk about a history of Islam and the United States and what that means.
It would catapult the heads of the Christians into the city like cannonballs, the ones that he had killed. I mean, wow. And he saw himself as literally killing the infidel. He thought he was serving Allah. So the thing is that when people say, well, jihad is just this personal struggle, it's like, where were you 1,400 years ago? Why didn't you tell Muhammad and the caliphs that it was just supposed to be a personal struggle? Obviously, the historical record of the last 1,400 years shows that the majority of Muslims have viewed it as a literal submission, conquering of the world.
Again, for a donation of $25 or more this month, your gift to Changing Worldviews will go directly to pay for airtime, and I would love to send you this outstanding resource. And you can get it by sending your check to Changing Worldviews, P.O. Box 750624, Petaluma, California, 94975-0624, or you can order it online by going to changingworldviews.com, click on the donate button, one-time donation, and put in William Federer special offer. People are really enjoying having it. Okay, thanks for staying with us. All right, Terry, so just before the break, you were going to tell us what those 3 main trigger events that you describe in your book, what are they?
So the trigger events we cite in our book are primarily a planned eugenics campaign, a planned epidemic. And, an epidemic is when somebody else has a disease, but it hasn't yet arrived in your neighborhood. That's how you basically define an epidemic. A pandemic is kind of like the bubonic plague, the Black Plague in Europe, where even the people next to you are dying, okay? Now, we talk about a planned injectable event or a planned event by a warfare lab or something. somehow, some way, a virus of some kind, the H1N1 or some other derivative thereof, will be cast into various populaces globally that will cause such a pandemic, large-scale death event, that the world will be transformed by that. Now, let's throw in something else into the cauldron. So everything's going to go into this cauldron, this stirring pot, and so we could have a simultaneous disease foisted on our nation and or the world. Along with that, perhaps, even simultaneously with that, perhaps, a planned global economic collapse. Now, folks, if you think that's nonsense, then look at 2008 and what happened if you were awake and watching then, and imagine now something even worse than that, because we have, now write this number down, we have $800 or $900 trillion in computerized, off-the-books derivatives owned by Rockefeller and Rothschild that are about to explode. Now, the reason you haven't heard so much about them is they've kept them quiet. They're also called credit default swaps, and they've kept them quiet because they're unregulated. They're not on the books, but they're still there. Now, to put that in perspective, the gross domestic product of the entire world per year is roughly $65 to $70 trillion. Imagine now when the computers get overwhelmed with $900 trillion of collapsing credit default swaps or derivatives. When that goes, the whole system melts down into a black hole into outer space. The whole system paradigm shifts, goes upside down overnight. I think that's about to happen. Now, we also list a possible EMP attack by an alleged foreign government that I believe will be orchestrated by the crowd that controls our government here and all other governments on Earth. Now, if you want to get an idea that I'm not crazy, just go to Google and put in 165 central banks in the world are owned or controlled by Rothschild. All 165 central banks in the world are owned and controlled by Rothschild. And by the way, you mentioned earlier, Sharon, we're not getting a lot of truth over the regular news media, and that's because, write this down, 6 major mega corporations owned by the same people, the Illuminati, they own all the media. So you're being spoon-fed with propaganda because we're in the final perestroika deception. We're going into the final phase, and they don't want you to know the truth. And your time on the air, my time on the air, is probably going to be pretty limited in the not-too-distant future. So an EMP is basically an atom bomb that isn't set off on the ground, like Hiroshima. It was dropped from an airplane, but it got pretty close to the ground before it was triggered to go off. Now, an EMP bomb is a nuclear device on a missile that goes up into the atmosphere over a given area and explodes the lower echelon of space, just outside the atmosphere, and that triggers an electromagnetic pulse frequency. That's why it's called an EMP, electromagnetic pulse bomb. Everybody has them now. We have them. China has them. Russia has. Everybody's got one. Iran says they have one, and they can put it on boats and go over to New York and blow up. Fry the grid. Now, what that will do? That was kind of like a lightning attack, only on an exponential scale. You have a storm go over and the lightning flashes, and then your electricity either flashes or goes out momentarily. Now imagine an electromagnetic bomb going off over the continental United States, and it fries everything. Your car shuts down. Your car's all electronics. Your cell phone, the electricity, the grid. The whole grid shuts down. Nobody has any power anywhere. Nobody can talk. Nobody can heat their home. Nobody can do any banking, which is pretty much cashless now. No one can do anything. Farmers can't, do their crops. Sets us back 100 years in time in a flash, a trigger event that's a paradigm shift in that regard only. But now you take that paradigm shift where the world turns upside down overnight while most people are still sleeping. Then you take an economic crash to the tune of 800 to 900 in derivatives. Listen, folks, it's a planned crash. And 2008 started the final phase of this coming planned crash. And when this thing happens, there'll be nothing left. It'll be the scorched earth policy, economically speaking. So if we were to have an EMP bomb, and I don't think they're going to do that, Sharon, because they're spending too much money and time and work putting the electronic infrastructure together with which to control us, this cloud thing. Yes. I don't think they're going to use an EMP bomb. However, Boeing, under military contract, has developed a localized EMP airplane. They now have a jet that can basically wipe out a whole city's grid.
Interesting. I was thinking about the fact it doesn't quite make sense if they're going to control through all of this technology to do an EMP that wipes wipes it all out is counterproductive, to say the least. And so if there were to be an EMP attack, it would come from other than those that are wanting to put together this huge beast tech, as you say.
And at the same time, we have communist troops here ready to conquer America when the planned economic collapse happens. It's orchestrated. We have communist forces already here, and our own troops are actually playing with them.
I was just going to say, it's very interesting with the whole Olympics happening in Russia and the kinds of things that you were hearing on the nightly news is just how good the Russian investigators and police and so forth are at ferreting out terrorists and so forth. And they're just being hailed as even better than our own. So that's just another dot to connect there. Well, you know what, Terry, you're right. There is so much to talk about, ladies and gentlemen, and we're down to 2 minutes here, and I don't want to let us go off the air without you telling folks the best place to get a hold of your book and your other books, your website, and all of that information. Please do that now.
Thank you, and I need 1 minute to tell people what the Mark of the Beast is. I think I can do it in 1 minute. So please go to my website, www.secondcomingministries.com, and click on email. Terry Cook, please send me the free book. Now, with your permission, Sharon, give me a minute to tell people why they shouldn't take the Mark of the Beast and what it truly is. Revelation 20 says it'll be a twofold process. The devil wants you to worship him. This man who's coming to lead the world as a so-called savior after World War III, and that's another trigger event I didn't have time to get into, Sharon. We're looking at World War III on the very near horizon. Economic crash, a lot of diseases, as we discussed earlier. All those things will make the world need a Messiah and start the trigger event called the Four Horses of the Apocalypse. Now, when he comes to power, he's going to require your worship. You see, this whole thing is spiritual. The devil is going to occupy a man's body for the final 7 years on earth. So he's going to come down and he's going to say, you worship me, then you can have my chip implant and buy and sell. If you don't worship me, I'll cut off your head. Revelation 20. Read Revelation chapter 20, folks. It's not nonsense. It's real, and it's about to happen. Revelation 20 says the Antichrist will require people's worship. He'll say, worship me, and then you can have my mark and be in my new world order and buy and sell and have a job and all that. If you don't worship me, I'm just going to cut off your head right now.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I am sure that you have got a lot of information here, hopefully food for thought. And Terry, again, give your website address, and we're going to have you back on because I'd love to talk about the information in your book, Revolution, all about Marxism and revolution of all those with the communist mindset and bring it up to date today. But once again, go ahead and give your closing information.
Thanks very much, Sharon. It was such an honor to be on the program. Thank you for allowing me to tell the truth. We don't have a lot of time left, and that's why I'm so outspoken and direct. I just want to do things for God. He wants you to get the message and the truth. There isn't a lot of time left. My website is www.secondcomingministries.com. Terry L. Cook, secondcomingministries.com. Terry L. Cook. Go to my website, click on my email button, ask for the free book, Revolution, or just ask for the free book. And if I've irritated you and you're writing me off as a nut, please don't do so. This may be the last time you get truth before darkness falls and you'll get no truth at all. So God bless you all. Get on your knees. Come to Jesus Christ as the only Savior, the only name in the universe by which any of us can be saved.
Thank you, Terry.
With a tiny chip holding the key to all of their private information.
But as you're about to see in our CBS 46 investigation, it's not fiction. In fact, it's being marketed in Georgia as life-saving technology. So why do some experts say it's potentially deadly? CBS 46's Kim Feddick investigates.
It's used in key cards, prepaid tolls, even checked luggage. It's called RFID technology, or radio frequency identification. Small chips that store information.
So here's the chip.
And now that same technology is literally available in the flesh, with chips injected right into people's arms.
It says it burns a little bit. That's about it.
Atlanta firefighter John Santola was injected with the chip about the size of a grain of rice. When scanned, the number on the chip is linked to a database with Santola's medical history.
I had to go help me in case of emergency.
Santola was chipped when Florida-based VeriChip Corporation set up a booth at an Atlanta firefighter conference. They market the chip primarily for safety reasons, storing medical information for first responders, Alzheimer's patients, even children.
And it is the only product that has been approved by the FDA for this specific purpose.
The FDA approved the use of chips in humans in 2004, but since then it's caused quite a bit of controversy with some consumer groups, concerned about privacy, even health concerns.
These are very powerful tools
especially if they fall in the hands of somebody with political ambitions.
One of the loudest voices of opposition is right here in the Boston area, a Harvard doctor and author of spy chips.
These technologies will not make us safer. I think they'll make us sitting ducks for Big Brother.
Dr. Catherine Albrecht also compiled 16 years of studies she says prove the chip can cause cancerous tumors.
It's clear as day that these tumors were not only malignant, but they metastasize, they spread to the lungs, the liver, the thymus, the brain.
These pictures show the tumors growing around the actual chip in the mice and rats.
Certainly the company, I mean, they've done, I think, a tremendous job of keeping that information under wraps for the last several years.
We sat down with the chief medical officer of Verichip and asked about the link to cancer in mice. Full copies of studies done on microchips and humans, log on to CBS46.com. I'm Kim Fettig, CBS 46 Investigates.
We'll be right back.
Exposing the worldviews behind the political, cultural, and ideological wars being waged in our nation and world, Sharon packs an hour's worth of information into every half hour with news you can use.
Academia is often the wellspring of race hatred. This is something that we need to recognize. Eugenics, indeed, was a campaign to create a master race by do-gooders and progressives. They were attempting to create a utopia.
What's ending up happening is that Christians who say, I don't care about issues, they realize that's what's being used to silence the gospel. If they can silence the truth, they will silence the gospel.
You're being a watchwoman on the wall, Sharon. I say that with all sincerity. Appreciate what you're doing to sound the alarm, and we need more shows like yours.
Changing Worldviews is funded entirely through the tax-deductible donations of our supporters. If you've not done so already, renew your active support today. And if you're new to Changing Worldviews, would you consider helping us with a donation, becoming a monthly partner to help get the truth out and tell the world the side of the story that mainstream media doesn't report? Thank you so much ahead of time for supporting our efforts.
And now for my closing thoughts. I think it's appropriate, given the topic for today, to simply quote from the prophet Isaiah, chapter 41 of the Bible, which says, "Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous hand." Ladies and gentlemen, no matter what evil men may devise, God has told us ahead of time in the Bible what's coming. And He also has told us that if we will put our trust in Him, if we will trust in Jesus Christ as our Savior for eternity and to save us from the things that are coming upon the earth, we have nothing to fear. But we want to know about these things so that we can warn others, so that they can be prepared, and so that they can trust in the Lord as well. We are going to be watching this, so I encourage you to stay tuned every day, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday here on KDIA, and then, of course, on Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday for our online live streamed show. In the meantime, let me encourage you to stay aware, stay alert, because we are not only living in a changing world, but we need to be informed and know what's going on, and we also need to educate those in our family, our friends, and spheres of influence. And so until I see you next time, this is Sharon Hughes, saying it like it is.
Thanks for listening to Changing Worldviews with Sharon Hughes. You can get more information on today's topic or order a CD of today's show by visiting changingworldviews.com or writing us at Changing Worldviews, P.O. Box 750624, Petaluma, California, 94975-0624. You can also contact us at talk@changingworldviews.com. That's talk@changingworldviews.com. Our program is listener-supported, and we appreciate your tax-deductible donations to help us get the truth out on the important issues Sharon addresses on the show. So until next time, remember, stay alert, stay informed. We live in a changing world.